Welcome back to another Supercoach video. It is the round 17 review with me, JD, and you're joining me from the new place, which is pretty exciting. Where everything's currently set up at the moment is terrible when it comes to, I guess, the lighting. Probably the acoustics aren't great either, but we'll have to deal with it and figure that out eventually. But let's jump straight into it without any further ado. I put a 2.628 up for the round, which is a great score, very respectable score. Saw me move up again in the ranks, so this is a trend for a few weeks. For those that have been watching videos since the start of the year, remember that I peaked quite early at 110 overall, blew back out to outside the top 1,000, and then we've brought it back, so 568, which is a great score, racking up those league wins, which is important because we will talk about I guess the point of my season, which is, do I keep going for overall? Do I go for my leagues? Tricky stuff. So, thank you, Mr. KFC man. So here's the team as is. We'll just quickly fly by this. I think the big talking points, for me at least anyway, are Whitfield and Langford, the two with injuries, but we'll talk about those as we get to them. So, down back, Whitfield was great, Stewart was great, Ridley was great, and Ridley looks like he's benefited a fair bit from Heppel being out of the side, because not only was he getting the kickouts, but he was getting a lot of the general plays, well, a lot of the exit possession was through him again. So I think he does really benefit when Heppel's out of the side. And the reason why I say that is for most of the game, Crows didn't really kick a score. I think they had 3 behinds to half time, and he was still on track for well over 100 at that point. So, yeah, I think actually having Heppel fit and firing is probably the thing that might have had Ridley score more than anything else this year. Then Lloyd 114, wow, there's some good scores. And then Short, wow, apart from Whitfield, defense was great. It's like a 120 average. Short, so this was somewhat expected with the Hooley injury. We've always said that Short's going to score better when Hooley's not in the side. Complete monopoly on kickouts. Complete monopoly on that person they look for to exit defense or to use the ball. So in a Richmond side where I think no one else turned up, that's great. I think we might get a lot of those from here to the end of the year. Some of these big scores for sure really help his average. So Whitfield, man, this is third time. So for those who didn't watch the game, Whitfield in a marking contest had sprint the whole length of the field, great effort. From the defence 50 of the Giants all the way through to basically the forward pocket, 45 to about 20-30 metres out. Got connected with in the head by Jack Bowes as he was marking it. Nothing untowards, just like missed the ball basically. Collected him in the head, went down. He didn't look concussed, or at least obviously concussed when he went down, and he didn't hit the ground hard or anything either. So he popped straight back up, and when he popped up, he had a little stagger step, like a little half step, like if you watch much fighting, boxing, UFC, you know, when you see someone with like a drunk stagger step type deal. Yeah, he had one of those, which wasn't great. Went back and kicked the goal, which was good because at that point he'd only had 2 touches before that mark and goal. And so that got his score somehow up to I think like 39 at that point in time. Oh, and by the way, this is like a great example of how scaling works, the difference between him and Langford, because he went up to 39, then went off, and then because the game wasn't decided until late in a close one, he basically lost all scaling and got negative scaling. So even though he was out for most of the game, he went from 39 back to 32. But yeah, so then they came out afterwards and said, like, not concussed, passed the concussion test, was precautionary, just had like a bad migraine, which he's prone to. And so there's some optimism or hope that he could play this week. But then they've come out yesterday on the Monday and said that he failed the second concussion test and he will actually miss the next game. He'll go into the 12-day protocol. Now, shout outs to Klopp, who's from the Discord, but you can also find him on Twitter. And, you know, if you're going to check him out, I don't know why he hasn't followed me on Twitter, so just, you know, get that done. But he was saying that if the floating fixture puts Essendon versus GWS on the Thursday night, that would mean that Whitfield will not only miss this week, but he'll miss next week as well against Essendon. So that could be a 2-game injury, plus concussions can take a little bit of time to see players get back to full strength. We saw it with Ridley. So this is making me wonder whether or not I should trade Whitfield. But the beauty of this for me is that with that extra money I've got, I could actually do Whitfield to Mills, which is a pretty big trade. Like that's a reasonable upgrade, and I get the points. We'll talk a little more about trades later. As you can see, my cover at the moment is Bianco and then Briggs. So unless like if Briggs gets named, I think I might be comfortable using him as cover for Whitfield. But Bianco playing in that half forward role, he looks good, and every time he's got ball in hand, he's great. But yeah, that's not great for scoring. In the mids popped off this week. It was huge. I think a lot of people had the same. Especially get Took Miller, Josh Kelly, they also went off. Titch had a good game. I'm pretty sure the only ones that didn't really go off, which was surprising, was Parrish, who got tagged and still played like all right, but he just didn't get much of it in the second half when the game was over. And Jarrett Lyons didn't have his best. I think he put in like a 90-ish or something like that. Who do I want to talk about in the mids? I mean, Walsh runs forever. Merritt was great. Neil, I don't really know how he got to 118. That was a little bit lucky. Dogs are actually a little bit like disappointing, 114, 116. And then Brayshaw, he's one of the ones that I need to perform well each week. He's one of the ones that's different between me and most other midfields. Like instead of a Brayshaw, they have Itch, Taranto. Oh, Taranto didn't do well. He did real bad. But yeah, effectively, like there's a lot of unique midfielders. At least at least one or two usually unique. So mine are Neil and Brayshaw. So Neil coming back this week and playing well, great. Spray having an absolute butchered DT Supercoach ratio, not great. But hopefully he bounces back and we see a 130 or something out of him this week. They play Geelong. It's not a good sign. Although he has had good scores against tough matchups. I guess the more important thing is they don't tag him. Geelong have been running O'Connor. Do they tag him? Maybe. It's likely. We'll see. I hope not. That's real bad if he gets tagged. In the rucks, Grundy's been amazing since he returned. I think like the only way that trading Grundy out was the big win is if he went to Sean Darcy, who's been phenomenal. Mentioned it last week. This could be the last week we start going. I think Darcy might be the start next year. He's just, maybe it's just a purple patch, maybe he gets injured, whatever it is. But with Gawn just having less hit out time that being shared with Jackson, he's just ceiling isn't what it used to be. It's not that 120, 130 ceiling. Still a great ruck. Still very important in Melbourne, but just super coach, he's probably going to be as relevant. In the forward line, so Danger came off his highs of last week with the 97. Oh, and then just one of them, Bramble 120. So everyone was scrambling once Bramble put up the 120 to figure out could they loop off someone on. I couldn't because I think Edwards looked very likely to be the sub, and then Newcombe obviously gets locked out with the Bramble game. And the person I would have pulled them off for, which is Brayshaw had already played against them. The person I wanted to pull them off for was Neil. I would have got 2 points, but there's no way of doing it, so it is what it is. I did see a lot of people pull off like Walsh, so that hurts. It probably was the right move, but yeah, that hurts. Danger, he looked okay. He kind of limped his way to a 97. It looked like it was going to be 100, but I guess somewhat disappointing it was against the opposition you'd expect him to score well. So let's see how that goes this week against Freo. Once again, an opposition you'd expect him to score well. Going up against the five for someone like that, you'd think he could do pretty well against that team. So he'll probably be reckoning with Darcy as well. Darcy should go again. Forward line here. The Kangaroos last night just did surprisingly well in the wet. You'd think that in a game where defenders may struggle just because they can't get the marks as easily as you normally would, they might struggle. But no, they did really well. Zibble was quite good, and props to the Roos because they're helping keep football interesting. Like West Coast Tigers losing, GWS losing in an upset as well. These are all like huge because you've now got 5 or 6 teams that are all fighting for 7th and 8th now, which is really good to see. And it's somewhat surprising that it's West Coast and Richmond that fell out from all those weeks ago. I thought that it was going to be one team that would fall out. It'd be the Swans. I thought the youth might struggle. They might fall off a little bit. You might get injuries to Buddy and Heaney, but no, the Swans have been good. It's not them that's been the concern whatsoever. But yeah, that's really exciting. There's actually an interesting contest for 7th and 8th on the run home. Love that. If it was decided and all said and done, like too boring. So yeah. And then finishing the forward line. So Dale did all right, just at 89 in a Dogs loss. Thought he was going to go bigger, but yeah. And then Dusty has been perennially disappointing. I think this is just going to be a bit of a struggle for the Tigers if they're, I wouldn't say not competitive, but if they're losing these games, it's going to be hard for them to put up big scores just because, you know, he does need some form of scoring or like some type of free flow in the game so he can both deliver inside 50 well, burst away from contest, but also kick goals himself. And Tigers just aren't getting enough of the ball for him to really score well. So this is probably the last year with Dusty as well. Bit of a farewell tour for Supercoach talent of old. And then Langford. So this is the opposite example of Whitfield, where Langford got subbed out at the end of the third quarter or start of the fourth quarter with like hamstring awareness or some tightness in his hamstring. They didn't say it was an injury; they just said it was tight. And he got subbed out, I want to say, in like the high 80s or maybe low 90s. But because he'd done most of his work when the game was on the line when Essendon kicked away, he continued to get scaling for the rest of the game because it was a blowout. So just interesting to see in those two situations how scaling works and how, depending on whether the anchor point was when you were scoring or when it was, you know, after you subbed out, it affects your scaling quite dramatically. So if Langford doesn't play this week, I'm also in a bit of a spot of bother here because Coleman Jones was 1 to 2 weeks on the calf. Does he come back this week? I mean, they could use him against Brisbane. Brisbane's quite a tall team, but I'm not really sure the way that their forward structure really like accommodates him to play as well. Like I don't know about that. And then I mean Finn McRae, what he missed out on being sub again. They play Carlton this week. Even if he got a game and was named, really want to take his points. I don't know. So if Langford misses this week, which there's a chance he plays, but I think there's probably just as big a chance he misses. I think this is the one of the two I'd have to trade, unfortunately. I haven't really looked at who I could get for him, though. So, and the problem is that a lot of the other players you can get just aren't that exciting. Like, Hind has been durable and has been good for the Essendon. Go there. I don't really want Dixon like a key forward. I don't really want Tom Donald as a key forward, even though the averages have been great across the year. They've had big up and down patches. I don't want to ride the down patch. Same with Hawkins. Bailey's been good. Someone that I called that early on, but like he's just going to be too inconsistent with the role that he plays. Isaac Smith's a no. Tex's a no. Toby Green, I am not envious of those that have owned him and had the ups and downs. So this is the issue. Like of the forwards I could afford, there's no one there that I could really go to. It has made me think that my other option this week is to actually trade out Coleman Jones. And where is he? I could go Isaac Heaney. And basically just upgrade my F7 cover to Heaney rather than replacing Langford. Swans runs pretty good home from here, and that way I could just loophole these two here on out. So that's an option. Obviously, if Coleman Jones was to come back, it destroys my right cover, and it means if Gawn or Grundy go down, then they have to be traded, which is going to be tough, especially with not much money. But yeah, this is what I'm thinking. If Langford misses, if Langford doesn't miss, and instead it's Whitfield, I might do the Whitfield to Mills just because it's such a big upgrade. But the tricky thing for me here is that the cash league that I have played for a few years, it has prizes for like my premierships to finishing top of the ladder as well as most points. And what I've found is even though I generally have the best team each year, it's much safer to go for those two than it is to go for like the winning the league finals, because it's just, you know, week to week you can get unlucky, you can get fluke matchups, that type of thing. So for me, it's like I can put foot to the floor, get Mills, get Langford, go down to one trade, which is barely enough the last 5 or 6 weeks, but it's going to help me secure that league win, top of the league. Because while I'm tied on points, I face one of the other guys that's tied for first next week, and I face the guy in fourth this week. So 2 potential tough games. So that's what I'm thinking, like, maybe I want to do this type of trade, secure my spot. So yeah, I feel like it could be both play for league and for overall. But yeah, that's my team. That's where I'm at. What do you think I should do? Should I be trading Whitfield to Mills, or just holding for Bianca cover? Should I trade Langford for like Hind, or is it better to put Coleman Jones to Heaney? I'm a little bit stuck, but I guess what happens with injuries this week as well as the fixture. Like, I don't know when we find out the fixture for S versus GWS next week, but that could determine things as well, because if Whitfield's up 2, I probably should just trade him. Anyway, let me know what is happening with your teams, what trades you're weighing up, what injuries you've got, and I will see you all in the next one. So.